Hey guys, TikTokers, this is for the TikTokers because we had a bit of interest in the tobacco. I just did what I couldn't help it when I was listening to the government worker, whoever it was, I forget her title, ringing up the wonderful Heidi Murphy as well. And there was this government employee still pushing that same line that is, going down, oh, this is the best way. And I think she even described it as the world-leading tobacco way to handle tobacco. Is that exactly the same as how Scotland Yard used to come and take advice off Victoria Police? That type of world-leading? I mean, come on. Anyway, so on that, it also occurred to me, a lot of people don't really understand what is going on. So let me just relive this little story. About circa 2016, 15 maybe, 16, right when the wheels had fallen off my life and I was in prison and battling addiction, and just before I got asked to be a witness to testify against a prison officer. Just before that period of my life, I was having a conversation with a person in prison, and he was a young person and he was clearly part of a bigger organised crime group. And I was having a bit of a conversation with him just in the walking yard, and he was describing to me his charge was because he'd been charged for a container of tobacco, and he had taken the pinch. It was his job to go and pick it up or whatnot, and this was clearly the early stages of it, because his charge was failing to declare the excise. So because they didn't pay it, and because he had done something, I think he made admissions, to be honest. I think he made admissions because you can't get a conviction on it. So I'll explain. So because this is what happens, and as far as I'm aware, it is still, this is how Australia got into the mess, but particularly Victoria with the tobacco. What happens is tobacco is legal to sell, right? You can sell tobacco legally. Just. And that means if you import, it's like a parallel import. So you have Bridgestone Australia, for example, who brings in their tyres and sells their tyres. But you can also have, the family-owned business bypass the approved, the Bridgestone approved channels, go to some places that have less sales tax, less what have you, where in effect the tyres are cheaper. Fill a container, for example, the Middle East is a fine example. Fill a container with tyres and parallel ship it. And it's called a parallel import. And then you'll see Bridgestone tyres that aren't Bridgestone Australia approved, but they're still Bridgestone tyres. Same happens with Michelin, Pirelli. Well, the same thing happened with tobacco. It was just a parallel import. So, but it's not illegal. It's not approved by Bridgestone. If you have a warranty problem with your tyre, Bridgestone Australia is you're not going to be able to pull into a tyre shop and say, here, I bought this Bridgestone, can I please have a warranty on it? You're not going to have the support. With tobacco, you kind of don't need that, right? So that led to parallel importing. So what happens, obviously, the organised crime, they don't declare the excise. Obviously, they don't declare, right, we're importing tobacco, but they still import tobacco. There's nothing, it's not an illegal product. There's nothing to stop, Winfield Australia from importing a container of tobacco. Is exactly the same if, Kaz and Hedges or Kaz and Hedara Tobacco Company bring in parallel imported container of tobacco. Same. So that leads to, in effect, your higher ranked police would be policing it and coming up with what? We're going to get a failed to declare an excise charge. Seriously, all that work, all that effort, like there's a lot of, like we can't even afford to mow the lawns of our police stations, right? We can't even afford to, you see, so they need their resources to harass and bully people, don't forget. So decisions were clearly made in the likes of Victoria Police that it's not worth pursuing for, it's very hard to convict. If they arrest someone, prove to the court beyond reasonable doubt that that person intentionally didn't check the didn't declare box. Particularly if you've got language barriers, blah, blah, blah. It is a good chance that it's going to be thrown out of court. The person's going to, serve 3 months. It's just not worth it. Bang for your buck, it's not worth it. And that is what has led to what we're seeing today. Long story short, prohibition does not work. You can keep being incompetent Australian and Victorian government and all Australian state governments. You can keep being incompetent to all things drugs, tobacco, and anything prohibition related. And then force the hands where the next thing you're going to see in 10 years' time, for argument's sake, a Trump or a Conservative Party, in effect, blowing up, fishing drug mules because you've let it spiral that out of hand. Or you can start owning it, and in effect, what that'll do is just move it. All it'll do is just move it. So Trump can blow these narco boats out of the water, is my point. And all it will do is then move it. They'll either start manufacturing on America's shores. They'll move it here. The world's a big place, mate. And there's a lot of money in drugs. And they will just move it. Yes, we've seen opium droughts. When the Taliban told... in my lifetime, we've seen the opium drought of 2000, where the Taliban cut off supplies, 80% of the world's opium. Bang. And we had, literally, the world had a global heroin drought. Stopped, no supply. The point is, it came back in a heartbeat. Is there any heroin? Yes, there's more heroin than ever before. It's all out there. You just keep shifting it around. It is time to use it, do it differently. The tobacco problem is a perfect example of, aside the money that is getting generated, but in Australia all going offshore, it is time to, however that happens, it's going to take some, serious heads getting together and working together. It's going to take some police actually admitting that, look, we're never going to be able to police our way out of it. Perhaps we should try some different, and use the money for good. You can buy the $20 billion thereabouts that goes offshore just in 1 or 2 states of Australia in the tobacco. Every year, 12 billion is going offshore in Victoria. So let's assume it's 20 billion Australia-wide. Last count I checked, going off mainstream media reports, that equates to 40 hospitals every single year. Say with CFMEU prices, let's double that. Let's go, it equates to 20 hospitals every single year. It is time to wake up. We're still running on a 1925 game plan for 2025 and wondering why organised crime is flourishing. Hello? Wake up, governments. Wake up.